This video is going to be on this little contraption you see right here. It is a mini chainsaw mill attachment. Let's see what the sticker says. Lumber cutting guide, and it came from Harbor Freight. I had someone give it to me along with a bunch of other tools, so didn't actually purchase it, and I do not think they're actually available anymore. But this video is pretty much just going to be about using this tool, and not so much this exact one, but just the idea that with a chainsaw at least of medium size, I guess you could even do it with a small one if you're patient enough, you can cut out some slabs out of trees, whether they're being cut down for whatever reason or already fallen down, you know, blown over by wind or just died and still standing up, cut it down, whatever the case, that you can use a chainsaw to make usable lumber. And that first tree you saw there was a pine, but it ended up being a little too rotten to use. So this was a red oak tree, and this fell over about two and a half years ago and started to be cut up to be turned into firewood, but just ended up not happening. That tool right there is called a log peavy, and I have another video where I made that if you'd like to see it. It's a pretty neat video, pretty involved, a lot of neat techniques, setting up a makeshift forge and forging it out, the hook and the point, and so metalwork, woodwork, and then timber work. But some wood boring beetles, they were all underneath. I'm going to try to sparingly narrate this whole thing to where I don't get too annoying. The timber, the guide rides along a 2x4, so I selected an 8-foot 2x4 and then cut my log slightly undersized on of 8 feet. So I'll end up making something that's about 7-ish feet, 7.5 feet long. And despite this being dead and laying on the ground for so long, it's in really good condition. Just the butt there, that is a little bit chewed up by the bugs. But not so much. Just enough to give it some character, really. Not so much to make it unusable. You want your 2x4 to have to be as straight as possible and not have any twist in it, because however that 2x4 is laying, it'll transfer into the wood when that guide runs along it. So this is a Stihl MS390, and it is a 64cc chainsaw. It's not one of the big ones, not one of those Magnum series chainsaws, and it has a regular cross-cutting chain on there, so you can get ripping chains, which are sort of like a skip-tooth chain, I think, with more of a chisel grind, so a blunt grind, whereas a crosscut has a really pointed teeth, and the other ones have more of a squared-off looking teeth, from my understanding. So that's finishing off the next cut the next morning. It got dark on me. And as you can see throughout that cut, I was moving my hands around, and then that final part of the cut, I had my boot up on the guide, kind of pushing it with that, and that's what I find works the best. Probably not the safest thing to do, especially putting your hand down there and pushing on it, which I did in part of the video too, but kind of experimented with it for a little bit just to see what worked best, and using my foot seemed to be the best thing. And I don't think it's so much my foot has some sort of timber cutting skills, it's just more pushing directly on the actual guide is the best route. So I think what I'm going to do is put some sort of a handle on there that you can push on, and then some sort of guard to where if anything happens you wouldn't put your hand into the chain. Granberg makes a mini mill similar to this that has a handle, so I think that's probably the way to go. And this is sort of using a stick to push on it, and it did work pretty good. It's just my stick was small and it hurt your hand. Didn't have any gloves on, which is stupid, but usually anything to do with a chainsaw, you're having to sharpen your chain somewhat often, and ripping is really putting a lot of stress on the chain, so I had to stop, I think, after about 1.5 cuts and resharpen the chain. And it'd probably be best to sharpen your chain after every cut if you're using a regular chain. I'm not sure how a skip-tooth type ripping chain would work. And so that first slab sort of produces some quarter-sawn grain, and you can see how much figure is in it. I think those are called rays. But you just get that quarter-sawn look, which will be neat because you could use these slabs in some sort of a book-matched type application, like a big slab table or some sort of a wide bench or whatever you want to use it for. So after I slabbed off the first one, the second one went much quicker, and then there's the third. And about now I was wondering how in the world I was going to get these out of the woods, so just went ahead and called my chiropractor and made an appointment. This log is about 100 yards down into the woods, so it's a little tricky to get these out of there, as you can see, but I kept most of the weight back on my hips, so that means it was all on my legs, which kind of chicken-like little legs, but I made it happen. But it wasn't easy. These slabs probably weigh, I'd say, nearing 200 pounds a piece. I weigh 175 pounds, and I'm not a soaking wet piece of red oak, so my guess is these boards at almost 8 feet long, 16 inches wide, and 3.5 inches thick weigh more than me. And you can see that top one with a little twist in it. That's where the 2x4 was not mounted quite straight, had a little twist into it, which transferred into the cut. But it's okay because I'll kind of join these out with my adze and straighten them out. So I stack these to air dry for a while before I take them to the kiln. And so wood dries at about 1 inch per year for those of you who are curious. So it does take a while, and even then that'll only dry out to the atmosphere where you live. It's not going to get down to a moisture content that you would just want to toss this inside a climate controlled building. You would have some movement afterwards. So finishing off the drying in a kiln is a good idea. Plus it sterilizes the lumber from any sort of insects, or, well, mainly insects that might keep chewing the wood up and get in your house maybe. And this is some waterproof wood glue, Type Bond 3, using it sort of as a makeshift anchor seal to slow down the drying out the end grain for splitting. And just toss a piece of tin over it to keep the rain off. Well, the video wasn't too fancy, but I thought some of you out there might enjoy a look into a pretty primitive, simple way to get some lumber. If you already have a chainsaw of medium size at least, you can get you one of those little mini mills, micro mills, whatever they're called. That particular one came from Harbor Freight, but I don't know if Harbor Freight still carries it. It got it for free, and I think it was an old thing to start with. But I think Gramberg makes one, and then you can just kind of eBay, Google it, whatever, and you'll probably find some out there. I think they sort of range in the $40 to $100 price, but then if you get up to that price, you could probably just really step into getting just an Alaskan style chainsaw mill. But guess that pretty much takes care of things. I'll probably have already mentioned it in the video, but after these sit for a couple years, or I might end up wanting to use them sooner and just take them to have them kiln dried, but they're about 3.5 inches thick, so in 4 years from now they'll be down to as low of a humidity as they'll get to sitting outside. Then from there, if I want, I can take them inside and let them sort of acclimate to a moisture controlled, climate controlled house, I mean, with the air conditioning for a couple months, and probably be stable enough for whatever I would use them for. I like to try to use things in situations where if there is some movement, it won't actually make too much of a difference. So some sort of large slab bench, or a big sort of book matched live edge table, and then have it mounted to where expansion and contraction won't make too much of a difference. I think it'd be safe. So who knows what I'll end up using them for? Probably be in a future video, but we'll just have to wait and see. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel and you'll get updates of future uploads when I post videos in the future. And you can visit me on Facebook, where I post pictures and updates, and leave comments and questions below this video. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, click the red subscribe button on the screen now, and you will get updates when I post future videos. Thanks for watching.